What is up, y'all? It is comefy of r/NuclearRevenge. Yes, another revenge subreddit. Woo! I've already made this joke before. Let's just get right into it. But before that, I want to thank you guys for 925 subscribers. That's what we currently stand, and I hope we continue to grow. Alright, let's get right into it. Guy takes advantage of my little sister's disability and I snap. Quick preface. This all happened about a year back. 2, I will not be using real names because I can get in deep stuff if I did. All actors in the story will have their name replaced with JoJo references. 3, this is a long one. Better get your popcorn, guys. Let's get right into it. Context. My little sister, henceforth known as Holly, is a mute. She can actually whisper a little, but it takes a lot of effort on her part. She's been a mute ever since she was 5 and when she lost her ability to speak in an accident. She's very smart and she's a good looking kid. At the time of these events she was 16 and I was 21 at the time. Me and my sister lived together in an apartment because my mother is a roamer and who isn't well suited to take care of a teenager. She has her twin kid siblings but not my sister and I. My dad is distant from the family, so I help my sister through high school and fails to me. I work at car parts shipping company, so I get paid enough to get by. Because of a relatively poor living situation and my sister's inability to speak, she gets bullied at school. Generally, it isn't much of a problem, but in the few months leading up to these events, she was having increased problems with bullying. Build up. At the time, Holly was 16, but she was a sophomore in high school, due to failing a year in middle school. She refuses to take special education courses, now because they didn't help her at all. Because she's good looking and is older than most in her class, she gets attention from juniors and seniors. It's mostly negative attention, but there's one guy who we'll refer to as DIO from now on. He's the villain of the story. Who treats her really nicely. He's a senior and at the time is 18. He repels bullies from her because he's tall, handsome, tough guy, and bullies don't want to mess with him. I don't interfere with them because she's my sister, visibly be happy when she comes home from school, and whenever she's around him. I didn't let them hang out alone together, but I supervised them hanging out a few times. Anyways, King Crimson, a few months ago, she stops coming home happy. She isn't hanging out with him anymore, either. And although I ask her a couple times, she won't tell me anything about it. I confront him about it, and he evades the topic. At this point, I'm suspicious, but I don't know what to be suspicious of. I'm getting more and more worried about Holly, so I go to her counselor and assistant principal to ask her about her activities at school. From what I learned, she still spends most of her free time with DIO at school. I find this strange since she doesn't seem to be coming home happy anymore. This is where the illegal stuff starts. A few days ago, I invite Holly and DIO on a dinner night to Olive Garden. No one can resist Olive Garden. While we were there, I do 2 things that are completely illegal. Steal his phone, which I've seen the password to. 2, I read his texts and emails. Anything I can do to find out what's happened between them. I don't find what I'm looking for, but I do find out he drinks and smokes weed with his friends on weekends. This will be relevant later. A few days ago, I find his phone in the laundry, and say it must have ended up there on our coats on accident. I know for a fact he got it back, because he called me to thank me for having Holly return it. I still didn't have what I was looking for, so I went back to school. I used the previous text as grounds to check CCTV standards, but there was something that caught my eye. It was my sister going to the central bathroom in the school, and him going to the boys' bathroom at the same bathroom about a minute later. The bathrooms are separated by a wall, but there's a janitorial closet that opens into both bathrooms, and is completely in the blind zone of anyone walking into the bathrooms, let alone CCTV cameras at the front. I began to think something was happening between them in the bathroom. It was only one with a closet like that, and if my memory served me, the closet didn't have a proper lock. It just locked from the outside on both sides. Boiling point. Now that I have suspected something, I confronted Holly about it. She broke down crying. In 15 minutes of consoling, she shakily sighed to me, saying something that made my blood boil. Apparently, it was far worse than I had expected. I thought they were going in there to do drugs or something, since DIO is the kind of guy who would pull that kind of thing. As it turns out, according to Holly, he brought her in there one day, closed the doors, held her down, and raped her. He told her that he knew that if she told anyone, it would hurt her, and if she did, because she could not physically scream for help, or make any kind of loud noise for that matter. He got away with it. And the worst part about it, he was threatening her into meeting him there every couple of days and doing that to her. I was livid. My first instinct was to call the police, but I realized there was no evidence except the testimony of a mute girl. I wouldn't be satisfied with the police intervention anyways. The first thing I did was call Holly in for a week from school, family emergency, and get them a week of excused absences easily. Next thing I do is find out where he lived. After that, I planned the most brutal revenge I could think of. Highly illegal revenge. My first step was to break into his house. It turns out his parents go out a lot, and he leaves to smoke and drink with his friends. I knew from reading his text that there was a spare key on top of the porch light in the backyard. So that Saturday, I scoped out the place, waited for everyone to leave. Then I began phase 1 of my revenge. I went to his house through the back door and found his room. I smashed his PC, stole his wallet, and peed on his bed. I poorly hid 2 small bags of weed in his house. I have a friend who grows. Finally, to hide the fact that it was targeted, I tossed up the rest of the house and I didn't take anything. I went to a Starbucks and used the Wi-Fi and Dio's debit card, he didn't have credit, to purchase a bunch of toys in his name and send them to his house. I then left his wallet sitting near a homeless man sleeping on the park bench. Next, I contacted his parents and told them I had seen their son drinking and smoking with a group of teenagers. They were furious. Which leads me to believe I wasn't the first time something like that had happened. Finally, I went back to the road where he walked his way home with his drinking parties, which I had found in a text from one of his friends. I waited for 2 hours in some bushes for him to walk by. And then, wearing sunglasses and a hoodie, I jumped him, demanded his money and phone, although I know he didn't have his wallet. I kept in one hand my hoodie and pointing out that I had a gun, which he believed. He handed over a phone right away, and then I finished up my plan by using his phone, which I still had the password to send an email to the school and confessing to raping my sister in the janitorial closet multiple times, as well as possessing drugs on school grounds and drinking alcohol when he was underage. Then I snapped his phone into my knee and went home. Aftermath. My sister went back to school the following Monday, armed with a can of mace I bought her. DIO wasn't at school, and she was called in by her counselor. She confessed, and he was charged with rape, underage drinking, and illegal drug possession. On top of that, his parents completely disowned him, and he was expelled from school. Sadly, this story does not have a completely happy ending. This whole ordeal sent Holly into a downward spiral. Her grades fell behind, she barely smiled. In the March of 2018, she attempted suicide by cutting herself, and it was pure luck that I had found her in time. She's been getting better now, but the emotional trauma will probably affect her life. I pray to whoever the cruel guards are that gets a taste of his own medicine in prison. Whew, I don't know what to say. The story is extremely sad and is completely outrageous, and it's just so not right what happened. But the revenge is probably the best part and the most meaningful part of the story, because he really does deserve what he got. Because that is, one, it's illegal. 2, it's awful. It's morally wrong. Completely deserved it. I don't really want to continue talking about this because it makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable. So let's just get right into a more positive or entertaining story. Lie to me about your age. Dump me after you get me to sleep with you. Cool. I'll just ruin your life. Okay, this happened when I was 17. I was a senior in high school. When I was in high school, it's kind of an innocent, quiet girl. I didn't do much. I stuck to myself. I paid attention in class, turned in my homework in on time, and I was almost always either reading or drawing. I didn't go to party or anything except one time when I was a senior. My best friend, who was the polar opposite of me, she is still a major party girl. She'd do that really at school too, but she had a job, which I was not allowed to have a job when I was in school, because my grandparents didn't think it was appropriate that a high school aged girl should have to work. And school is your job. Which on one hand, I understand them not wanting to prioritize my education, but on the other hand, I never had enough money to do anything fun with the few friends I have. I didn't buy my own things, and I never learned the valuable life skills, like how to budget my money. One day she invited me to a party in front of my semi-conservative grandparents. Said it was a get-together with her family, and they said I could come since I was particularly part of the family. I was, but there was no family get-together. She says my grandparents would agree with my friend, and I should go. When in reality, we were heading to a party. It was where I met him. We're gonna call him Ben. Now, Ben was tall. Well, taller than me. Handsome, brown hair that was not too short, not too long. Gorgeous blue eyes. I was kind of swooned over. Not gonna lie, my friend and we're calling her Jessica, noticed me eyeing him and told him to come and talk to me. We did. We really hit it off. I didn't have a cell phone at the time, so we added each other on Facebook. I did have regular access to a laptop, however I stayed in touch after the party. I told Ben I was 17 and was turning 18 in June. Ben told me he was 19. I told him about my boring life and about my parents taking over and raising my siblings after my mom and stepmom lost the house. And he told me how his dad left and he was living with his mom because he couldn't afford to live on his own. Housing was quite expensive in our area. And he did tell me he was on probation. He said he got busted with weed. Well, yes, I was an innocent choir girl living with a super strict Glenn Beck listening grandparents. I honestly never had a problem with devil's lettuce, so I didn't care about that and thought it was bogus. We kept talking, and he and I would go for walks in the evenings. It was fairly normal for me to go on walks in the evenings, so my grandparents didn't think anything of it. And they trusted me because I had learned to defend myself pretty well, and we lived in a pretty sheltered area. And honestly, it was really nice to have a boy to pay attention to me. Of course, I like other goody two-shoes like me. I was really stupid when it came to boys. About 2 weeks into our thing, not quite a relationship, I don't think so. Well, I had butterflies in my stomach for the guy, and he did for me, or so he said. We never talked about a relationship, we just let it happen. We go over to his house with his mom and watch a movie. Needless to say, I lost my virginity to that guy that night. It was a school night, so he walked me home. It was weird. I felt weird. The next day, I told Jessica all about what had happened, and like the nerd she was, she lost it and demanded details. She was super proud of me. Good, sweet Alex finally got laid. And before graduation, she told our mutual friends, and they were so proud of me too. I didn't feel proud. I didn't love the guy. I honestly regretted that night. A few weeks go by and I don't hear from the guy. I'm beginning to think something happened to him, or maybe he got busted again. Either way, he finally gets a hold of me and says he wants to meet up again. I think, okay, sure, it's been a while. We meet at a park a few blocks away, and he tells me he doesn't have any feelings for me, and he doesn't think we should be seeing each other anymore. While I'm a bit of an idiot when it comes to guys, it was super, in the moment, dawned on to me what the guy did. Just used me for sex. I was super mad. I literally slapped him and walked myself home. I didn't cry until I got into bed. I couldn't stand to let my neighbors see me cry, or my grandparents, and have them ask me what's wrong. But I did go on Facebook and blocked him, and Jessica told me what happened, and I told Jessica what happened. She was probably at work, so she didn't respond, but by the time we met each other at school, she gave me this huge hug and asked me how I was doing. I wasn't crazy in love with the guy or anything, so I wasn't upset. I was humiliated. Jessica, for clarification, didn't know Ben at all, or know anything about him outside of what I told her. Jessica, of course, was mad. She was thinking of revenge plots. Egg his house, slash his tires, things like that. Then one of our mutual friends overhears us and decides to get her tea and ask us what the situation was. I told her everything about how I met Ben. She asked me about details about Ben and said, "You realize he's 26 and is on probation for soliciting a minor, right?" Well, that was new. Jess and I looked at each other, thoroughly confused. To make sure we were talking about the same person, she literally Googles his name, pulls up the thing in the news about him, and he had been arrested for found exchanging nudes with a 14-year-old girl from a nearby town, and he got 90 days and 5 years of probation. Because the system is jank, there's a page on the news report and it is his mugshot. I was even more humiliated and just went to class, not paying attention to Jessica or the other girl. That night, after talking to a cousin that is also on probation, I found out that their probation officer was the same person. They gladly gave me their contact information, and I told them the situation. Took a screenshots of the conversation and called Ben's probation officer using Jessica's phone, who had come over to the school and hang out. I left a voicemail and gave her Jessica's number. When she called back, Jessica went home early the next morning, and P.O. called Jessica's phone back, and since I wasn't there, Jessica explained everything. The probation officer gave Jessica her email address and told her that I needed to send screenshots of those messages on Facebook. Since I had blocked him, I had to unblock him and then pull up those messages. I took screenshots and sent it to the probation officer. Later in the week, Jessica pulled up another article that had popped up in the news saying that Ben had been thrown into prison for a probation violation. For the rest of 5 years, not just for sleeping with a minor, but also solicitation, which he was not even allowed to be on Facebook during the terms of his probation, and was denied bail. I still feel like a complete idiot for not looking into it and allowing a guy to be my first like that. But on the bright side, at least I'm not the idiot who now has to sit in a prison cell for the next 5 years. Whew, that's interesting. I didn't want to talk about another story like this, but these are the ones that happen in Nuclear Revenge. And, you know, jail time is not what he just deserved. Like, I guarantee you there's a comment, and if I look through all 28 comments, there's one talking about hoping he drops the soap. I'm guarantee you it. Anyways, this is like an awful story, so like I'm not gonna keep bearing on, especially because it's getting me VA. Alright, let's get the next one. Thank you all for watching towards the end. Hope it's a great day, night, time, whenever you're watching this, wherever you're watching this. If you're watching this at your little brother's T-ball game, you should just throw the T-ball over and just get the entire team, okay, to watch one of my videos. I'm sure they'll appreciate it more than actually trying to play a sport that they're bad at. Anyways, I just want to thank you all for the recent massive support. Road to 1,000 subscribers. We're extremely close. And the amount of views we've been getting recently is insane. The growth we've had is insane. I just looked away from my microphone. Apologize for that. But my Discord's in the description if you want early access or sneak peeks to future videos. And this is Sergeant Comfy signing off. Bye.